What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy P. Skip. Welcome to the best half hour of your entire Tuesday. You know what time it is. It's time to get into his course. My squad with me, T-Mac.
Hola.
Chili Will.
Gracias, amigo.
Let's do this. Luke chapter 8, verse 16 in the Amplified says this. Now no one lights a lamp and then covers it with a container to hide it, or puts it under a bed. Instead, he puts it on a lampstand so that those who come can see the light. Because what's ever done in the dark will come to the light. Whatever's done in secret will be seen openly. And I said that because just recently, Larry Nassar abuse survivors reached a $380 million settlement with U.S. Gymnastics, USOPC. As a result of this, USA Gymnastics and the Olympic Committee also agreed to implement new policies aimed at protecting athletes from future abuse. So my question is, how long have you been knowing that this cat has been abusing these young ladies? And how many did he abuse that y'all came out $380 million? And why did it take you having to come out of $380 million to finally say, hey, there needs to be some different policies that these male coaches aren't, or coaches period, aren't with these athletes by themselves? Why does it take money to make a policy change when complaints and allegations and you know, people saying, hey, I've been abused, that doesn't make you change it. That didn't even make you do anything about it. But it took you coming out your pockets to go, oh, hey, we lost money on this deal. Let's see how we can fix never losing money again. You know, that I'm trying to figure that one out. What do you think about all this, Tim?
It's well, kudos to the survivors for getting some sort of, compensation for what they suffered through. No amount of money probably can, replace the innocence that they lost with Mr. Nassar's, dastardly deeds. I think it's a shame though that it had to come down to crushing somebody's pockets before substantive measures would be taken to, make corrective action. I think that the survivors, in numbers, more than 500 of the folks that are going to split in some shape, form, or fashion this 380 million.
Wait. 500 girls he did this to?
500 plus. So it might be 570, closer to 600. And if it was the 600, that comes out to in between $600,000 and $700,000 a piece. But that's a whole lot of cases before you get somebody saying, hey, man, you ought to stop doing that. I mean, I think it speaks to two things, though. I think it speaks to the sexual predator nature that is, rampant in some sports, gymnastics being one, because even with this case, there have been some other cases that came out, some other anecdotal situations where the young ladies were saying, well, hey, they were abused as well by other camps in this whole gymnastics, kind of ecosystem. I think the Nassar piece just garnered the most attention because some of our higher profile gymnasts, gold medal winners, etc., Ali Raisman, Simone Biles, etc., they were part of this particular case. But I think it speaks to, like you said earlier, hey, when people make allegations, why not take those serious? And I think that spreads not just within sports, but also in some families. When you have a young person saying that, somebody inappropriately touched them or something, went on, or let's say a lady was going with a man and he with the daughter, just, some things that really need to be taken seriously. Now, of course, a person is innocent until proven guilty, and you want to get to the bottom of this because, you could have some false allegations. But these types of things of a sexual nature are hypersensitive and super duper serious. And in this case, it seems like this went beyond them trying to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, just error in judgment. This seems like it was a deliberate turn the other way, a cover up that exploded, and it's gone nuclear now with this settlement. And I'm figuring if they settled for 380 million, the case that they were probably bringing was in the billions. And so the U.S. Gymnastics Association or whatever the governing body is probably just say, hey, man, we're going to have to just, as it were, quote unquote, cut our losses and get these jokers close to 400 million, because if this thing goes all the way to court without us settling, we could stand to lose billions, which could be 3-4 times what this settlement is.
I think the other piece, just my opinion, is the Olympics is this year.
Yeah, that's a very, very astute observation, sir. Yeah,
so I thought they were like, let's get this behind us as quickly as we can, because we do not want this to be the conversation during the Olympics.
Yeah, the entirety of the window. Yeah, you're exactly right. That's an excellent point.
And so that was this is some hush money to me, is what it sounds like. This some hush money. This ain't really. I know we don't owe you. I know we owe you a whole lot more, but can this keep you shut up during the Olympics? So that ain't what everybody else is saying about us, and so we can have a good showing at the Olympics without that black eye or that thumb in our eye the whole time, because every broadcaster is going to talk about it. The only way USA can't talk about it is if somebody said, do not mention anything that has anything to do with this. That's completely off limits in your conversations.
Which will be very, very difficult to do given the often association that Winter Olympics have with Summer Olympics. Olympics is the Olympic family, and this is the biggest story in the Olympics. How are you going to have the Olympics and not mention this?
Right.
Yeah, well, that's a good call on that one.
Because they'll put a gag order out there, because one thing I realize in every city is it's either the mayor, I think it's the mayor that has say so on what can be printed and put in the news and what can't be. Because I remember working at Miller Park when they were trying to say that, the diversity of workers was there. And I'm like, I'm out here. It's not. Excuse me. There is no diversity. I don't know what you're saying to me. I don't know what you're telling these people. And we had a couple of people come and interview me. And so I asked them later on, why wasn't that in there? They said the mayor vetoed that article being able to be put out there.
Some of that kind of stuff, that's out of order. Now, the mayor might have influence and stuff like that, but media itself is called the fourth estate, meaning a free press is what we have as part of the United States Constitution. So although you got guys that'll muscle it, those media types weren't supposed to kowtow to that pressure. They were supposed to be able to print stuff out. Don't even send it to him for no proofread, nothing like that. That's a compromise of legitimate journalism. Matter of fact, with stuff that WikiLeaks, the guy, Julian Assange, and Eric Snowden and all that kind of whistleblowers, hey, this is getting the truth out. And the whole purpose of the media is to make sure that jokers that have power don't abuse said power. And a way that they do that is by giving exposure to egregious activities. And so the mayor at the time did do that. Shame on him. Bigger shame on the media for kowtowing to that and not saying, hey, look, we'll try and put as good a spin on this as we can, but we have to go ahead and report because we are a free press. We are the fourth estate, and you cannot gag us like that, sir, because we don't work for you.
Right. I agree. But is the journal, it's privately owned, isn't it?
The Journal Sentinel is owned by Gannett Publishing, the folks that own the USA Today.
Okay.
Now, what has happened over the past couple of years, there's been a consolidation of most media, both print and television, and the big 6 or 7 mega companies, Viacom, etc., they own a lot of this, and this came as a result of some legislation that was passed at the federal government level. But that does not change the fact that even though, theoretically, even though they are consolidated, the media is supposed to be the place that says, hey, look, we're going to go ahead and report the news. If you don't want us to be talking about drama in your life, don't be having no drama in your life then.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it has been kind of, muddled a little bit with that consolidation, but as a rule of thumb, the media is supposed to be a free press that's able to get the truth out, reporting news, particularly against those that are in places of authority. That includes politicians, business folks, whatever sector you're in. If you are a person of authority, the media's job is to make sure you ain't running out.
Right.
And a way to do that is to report on stuff. So you can't be dogging them out. And of course, you got bribes, bury the story. So you got some criminal element trying to stop some stuff. But as a rule of thumb, as a principle, the media is supposed to be free from being able to be stopped by somebody that don't want no bad news to come out about them.
Speaking of bad news, how about them bad news Bears and how the Packers did one of the most greatest second half comebacks I've seen in a long time.
It was dynamic, man.
What the Packers pretty much, the first half looked like, maybe the Bears gonna get this one, and even in the third quarter it looked like that. But then it's almost like Aaron Rodgers flipped the switch. It's like, okay, there's a fourth quarter, right? Yeah, great game. It's almost like he slapped Fields on the behind and said, great game, young fella. Right. He was like, but there's a fourth. Right. It's a fourth quarter. Yeah, okay. Great game. And just completely destroyed him and destroyed the Bears from the middle of the second half of the third quarter to the end of the game. And for me, it almost seemed like Aaron was kind of playing with them, so to speak, because some of the things that was happening, you're like, really? Mm-hmm. That was happening? But I thought the momentum was switched. I thought the Packers switched the momentum when it was at pick 6 that Fields threw in the second quarter. But then they turned around and scored twice on the Packers. I'm like, what is this? Yeah. And so that for me, what did you? What did you think? How did you think of the game?
I thought it was a great game. I mean, I think one of the things that, as a Packer fan, Milwaukee and Wisconsin native, we've grown accustomed to having winning teams. Right. Such that when we go through different spells of having mediocre to bad teams, it really it upsets the entire state.
Oh my
because the expectations are so high. And I will even bring that even more to the point over the last 3 to 5 years. I mean, we've gone to the NFC Championship game 2 or 3 times, right. And we expect to go. We won the Super Bowl last in 2011, so that's relatively recently, within a decade or so. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we sometimes take for granted the good fortune that we've had over these past several years. And so I think what we saw yesterday was the fact that now the best team doesn't always win. That's why you have to play the game. Anything can happen, upsets, the underdog, all that, blah, blah, blah. But what we saw yesterday was the fact that the Packers are a better team than the Bears. The Bears came out, they were game. I live with a Bears fan. My wife is from Chicago. She has that Bears.
My bad, bro. My bad.
You know what I'm saying? It's all good. We won. So at the end of the day, I still get a chance to talk the most trash, so it's all good. But what you saw there, I mean, the halftime score was 27-21.
Right.
The Bears scored 27 points in the first half on the Packers. And I believe Preston Smith, the Packers linebacker, went in and let his teammates have it, which also sparked their renewed vigor and effort in that second half. Now, when you have a team like the Packers that can play as, let's say, uncharacteristically as they did in the first half, and still win the game by double digits, that speaks to the depth, the goodness, the quality of that team. My question is, y'all did that against a team now that is mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. They have a 3 or 4-9 record. That was a scrubby team. Now, like Justin Fields, I want him to do well. I thought he got robbed by not being one of the first 2 picks in the draft coming out of Ohio State. Arguably, I thought he was as good or better than Trevor Lawrence with, let's say, less talent. Trevor Lawrence has had a number of jokers that went to the NFL like him, but that's neither here nor there. Justin Fields went out on his pro day, had what some scouts call the best pro day they've ever seen, definitely the best one they've seen in the last 9 or 10 years, and he did it twice. I've never heard of anybody doing a pro day more than once, and they said he did as good or better in his second pro day than he did in the first one. So Justin Fields, I want him to be super duper successful, and because a lot of teams tie the success of a team to the quarterback, good or bad, he's going to catch some flack for their losses, even though I thought he played, pretty well yesterday. Special teams was kind of jamming. They just lost to a better team. The bigger question for me, kudos to the Packers for coming back, not losing their heads. That was a game they easily could have lost. It would have been a shame. Playing at home, losing to the Bears. The Packers kind of had a Bears number. And that happens in sports sometimes as well. So they was a better team, and they tend to kind of have the Bears number, at least going to this quote-unquote season of time or this era of time. The bigger question for me, though, is if you can play like that, turn the light switch on and off, play in spurts extremely well on both sides of the ball, what I don't want is for you all, Packers, to lay an egg come playoff time. Y'all can't give us flashes of that, showing us, hey, man, we got all kinds. We can do this, we can do that. I got watches, I got chains, whatever you got. Okay, cool. You coming to the playoffs, I'm expecting that same team that can do it all to, quite frankly, do it all. So out in the NFC, the only concern I have is Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, because the Packers have not necessarily demonstrated that they can get past that team and him, particularly when it counts the most. The win was great. It was another feather in the cap for the Packers. But like I said, we went to the NFC Championship game 2 of the last 3 years. So that's what we do. That's cool. That ain't enough no more. We need you to win the NFC Championship game, get to the Super Bowl, and see what happens there.
A couple things. Do you think it's more on Matt Nagy and the Bears coaching staff, or do you think it's the players and them not producing? Because it seems like Nagy, either he's lost that locker room, or the players just don't like him.
Yeah,
or maybe it's some major injuries that's making this happen.
I think that's that. I think all of the above. If I would have to place most of the blame, again, I'll go back down to, I'll give a slight edge to the players. Now I'll say 50.1% and 49.9% Nagy. Only because if you're on the field, you're on the field. And I'll give Nagy the benefit of the doubt. I will say that his play calling has been a bit conservative, has been a bit underwhelming, and that does not necessarily help. I'll also say that their personnel is a little lacking. I mean, outside of Justin Fields, I mean, you got a bunch of almost like role players, you know what I'm saying? And they're in this rebuilding kind of a phase. But to Nagy's credit, he also was an assistant coach with Kansas City when Patrick Mahomes was first coming in. And part of the reason why I think he wanted to sit Justin Fields for the first year wasn't to kind of slam him or make him pay his dues or anything like that. He's seen this rodeo before. He had a guy like Patrick Mahomes, as skillful as he is. He sat that first year behind Ryan Smith, I believe the quarterback's name was, and he got a chance to learn pressure-free. Talented guy, but learn some stuff, learn situations, learn different reads, learn this, and have like a burning, centering fire in your belly saying, man, I should be playing. I should be playing. Right, you should be, but when you get your chance, you will not only have had the opportunity, but you will also have had the benefit of learning without any pressure. So he was coaching the next year too. I think when Mahomes had his breakout year, his second year in the league, but he had that year of tutelage. So sometimes going from college to the NFL is an adjustment, similar to high school to college, similar to college to, I mean, so there was an adjustment period, and I don't know that the Bears personnel is such that they can compensate or cover for Justin Fields. I mean, he's still a rookie. And so rookies going to make some rookie mistakes, and they're going to go through the growing pains and all that kind of stuff. I just think that when you are on a team that is mediocre at best, talent-wise, your deficiencies get amplified because you ain't got as much cover because your margin ain't that big. I mean, him not having that much time in the backfield to pass the ball, to get reads and all that kind of, that's tough. And every time I say hut, hike, I got to be looking to my left or to my right because I'm under pressure all game. By the time I get to the middle of the second quarter, before we get to halftime, I've either been sacked 2 or 3 times, hurried 4 or 5 times, and maybe had a ball or 2 tipped or intercepted. That's all before halftime. That's every game.
Right.
Now, you're a rookie. You go from being a stud in high school, all the girls liking you, you being a state champion and all getting carried up the field on the shoulders of your teammates, to being a stud in college, all-American and all of this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. You get to the pro, this is a different animal, man. This ain't for the love of the game. These is grown men you playing against who get paid to do that. Guess what? That's a job. And anybody that's looking at you and they got a job and you got a chance to have them lose their job, you in some trouble. Ain't nobody giving up their job for you.
Right.
Either I get you and keep my job,
right,
you outdo me and I got a chance to lose my job. Guess what? You in some trouble.
You getting got, homie. You getting got.
You getting got. You getting got. This is a job for me. I get paid to do this. You know what I'm saying? So I think that Justin Fields, what this experience is teaching him is that, okay, there are levels to this thing. Being talented ain't enough.
Right.
Being cold ain't enough. Right. You got to approach this like, oh, this is a job. And the psychosis of these jokers I'm playing against and with, this is a job. So I'm going to have to make some additional adjustments. If I don't have that much time to throw the ball, I'm going to have to maybe shorten my backdrop from 5 steps to 3 steps to 2.5. I might have to insist during the film sessions with coach, hey, coach, we might need to do a few more slants, a few quick drops, a quick, a couple more screen passes because, hey, man, our offensive line, I ain't hating on them. I love them, but they ain't there yet. And I ain't trying to be broke up. He already playing with broken ribs. Right. So, Joker, how much evidence do you need? So I think that's what it is. So to answer your question, I think that Nagy is just a razor's edge thinner than the players because somewhere pride has to come in and you have to say, you know what, I'm a grown man, I'm getting paid. So I'm going to go ahead and go the extra mile. I'm going to play above my head in some of these games because I am still a professional athlete. But the coaching is part of it, and I don't know that he'll be able to survive past this season, man, unless they go out on a 3 or 4 game win streak and say, well, hey, we got some good momentum going. I think we corrected some stuff. It took us all season to do it. Maybe we can build upon that for next year, but he might be in some trouble.
Yeah, from what I hear, we're looking at the last he'll be head coaching the Bears. So, I'm just
reading the tea leaves.
Right, pretty much. Hey, so listen, we haven't talked about him in a while, but I think because it's getting around the time that we need to, because there's a bunch of conversation about it, and that is Ben Simmons. We haven't talked about him in a while, but there's a lot of teams because it's getting around that trade deadline that are extremely interested in it, such as the Lakers. And the Knicks are interested in him, as well as the Timberwolves, the Blazers, the Kings, the Pacers, and the Cavaliers. They're all interested in him. I watched on the 4-letter network, they said a trade that will be a win-win for both teams would be Ben Simmons for Kyrie. And we talked about it. because Ben Simmons, with him being with the Nets, he's not looking to be a scorer. He don't have to score. You got two of them. What they need for him to do is defend, because he's a great defender. Defend and speed this offense up and get easier, quicker shots for KD and the Beard. And so that's what they're looking at if he went there. Kyrie going to Philly, he would be, I get to run this offense. They need me to score, so I get to score what I want. Plus, I got a legitimate big man that I can throw the ball down to, who can get me buckets, who can take some of the pressure off me. And Philly don't have the same restrictions, COVID restrictions, as New York has. And because I'm visiting New York, I can play against Brooklyn and New York because I'm visiting. I don't live there. So there'd be no restrictions there. So he could play the rest of the season out if he went to Philly. And with him with Philly, I think that will legitimately give them a chance to be number 2 or 3 in the East. Number 2 or 3 in the East. So, you know, I don't think it's beyond the thought of him going there. But I'm not. But the other teams, the New Yorks, the Lakers, the Trailblazers, the Kings, the Pacers, and the Cavaliers, that would all be multiple team trades in order to do it. But they could do head up Ben Simmons for Kyrie, and I think it'd be okay. What do you think about that?
I think it'll be a steal for Philadelphia. I mean, Ben Simmons kind of burned his player credibility.
Hey, but listen, another great show. Meet us back here, same back time, same back channel, right here on Joy 1340 AM 98.7 FM every night from 7 to 7:30. Until next week, have an amazing week. Hey!